Sorry, did I
Sorry.
say Catherine Carson? Because she's still off sick. So.
Right, thanks for that.
Okay.
Catherine, okay. Lovely. If we can move on to agenda item 3, the minutes. Are we happy to approve the minutes? Is there anything anyone wants to raise from that, or happy with?
Can I raise a couple of things, Mary McIntosh?
Sure. Yeah,
right.
Sure, Mary.
Item number 7. It speaks about me asking about the process for putting forward projects. That was actually, I was looking for feedback on how to take forward a project that was already raised with Jonathan Smith, because it wasn't actually on the list. And we spoke about it at the meeting that we had. So it's that bit of land at Turbothy going on to Southfield. So it wasn't so much about how to take forward the project, it was just looking for a bit of confirmation about that. The next one I think would be best placed under item 16, right? Talking about the infrastructure for new house builds and things. I would like it recorded that the status of Shotstown actually came about through a campaign with Wisher Press, and it was then passed by the councillors of the day, and there wasn't actually a public consultation for people to really discuss it and find out what that would mean for them. And so that was that. And something that I don't see in it about Bonaccord Crescent. I think this was a conversation between Councillor McCulloch and Matt Costello about the houses at Bonaccord being that came to a stop because of toxic waste. Planning department, because obviously if there was toxic waste that would raise a concern, but the planning department actually said it wasn't about toxic waste. The methane gas is not harmful to the public, and it was actually stopped because of the cost of peat removal, and more significantly the lack of a solution to comply with Scottish Water about drainage requirements.
Thanks, Mary. Yeah, I think that's Councillor McCulloch, I believe, was involved with that, and I think it was round about Scottish Water, wasn't it? So is everyone happy? Is everyone happy for those amendments to be made?
Can I mention, Kenny?
Yes, John.
They've got me down as a councillor.
Guys. You should be, John.
John, I think you do more work than a councillor, so maybe that's why they shoved you in as a councillor.
We're big of a wages.
Yeah. Hi, Chair. I think just
as well, John.
Sorry, Chair. I think just quickly come in just to respond to Mary. Mary, I don't think I'd said toxic waste. I think it was gases, and no, gases. Definitely. We've had the response. Thank you. Cheers.
Well, gas. Actually, I've just remembered, thanks for that. I've just remembered going back to item 16. Out of that discussion, it was agreed, Matt Costello came in, and it was agreed that we would have a meeting to discuss the issues that we had raised about planning concerns and infrastructure, and that went ahead with yourself, Councillor Stevenson and Ross Dunn.
Okay, thanks, Mary.
Thanks.
Thanks for that. Is there any other amendments anyone would wish to the minutes? No. Okay. Right. So we'll move forward to agenda item 4, Chair of Community Board Arrangements. So I did the first one, and I believe Councillor Claire Quigley did the second one, and obviously I'm doing the third one here. I think, though, it would be great if someone from the community would like to take the chair. I think that would be great. I think it would be good for the community as well. But please have a think about that. Certainly, you know, one of the councillors, we can go forward and certainly pick that up if people are unsure about that. But I think it's pretty good and spreads that roundabout. If we can get somebody from the community to pick up the chairmanship of the committee. So maybe have a think about that. And if you would like to do that for the next one, it may be that you want to contact maybe Matt about that as well. Okay. So just before we kick in, we go to the General Community Board business and updates. So we've got agenda item 5, and I'll refer to Matt because I don't know who's picking that up. But what I would like to do is I'd like to say a really big congratulations to Shots GPT and all the partners. They had raised or managed to pull down £790,000 for the Spring Hill Hub from the Regeneration Capital Grant Fund, which is absolutely fantastic. I think that will make such a big difference to that area. I remember as a kid, you know, all that grass was really used for was you were going out on your bike sometimes if it was dry, which wasn't usual in Shots, or you were playing football up there. So I think that that's really a fantastic thing to happen to the town. So to them and their partners, really well done. If we can move on now to the Community Board business and update, if I can take you to agenda item 5, which is driving digitally locally. Matt, who's going to speak to that?
Thanks, Chair. That'll be Jennifer Lees who's with us today. So I'm just going to share a document for Jennifer to take the
Okay. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks very much indeed, Councillor. And hello, everybody. Thank you very much indeed for inviting me along to your community board meeting tonight. I just wish I could be with you all in person, but hopefully that won't be too much longer now. I'm Jennifer Lees. I'm a business partnership manager in the Council's Chief Executive's office. And what I want to talk to you about tonight is the Council's digital agenda to explore your needs and to look at how we can work with you in making sure that Shots is digitally connected and everyone is capable and confident and happy using the new digital technologies. If you have any questions, just drop them into the chat bar and I'll pick these up at the end. Matt, as he said, is going to be helping me by moving me through the slides. So we'll see how we get on. As you know, community boards have been set up by the Council as part of our framework for working with communities, and we see these as a really important part of our community empowerment agenda, providing us with the opportunity to work with you in developing and delivering services for your local area, making investment decisions for Shots and being accountable to the local communities that you serve. Next slide, please, Matt. Tonight I'm going to talk about the Council's digital ambitions, how we can translate these into your local area. I've got a wee ask for you in terms of getting involved and working with us. And then the takeaway, sorry, it's not your normal takeaway, but we would like to invite you to consider getting involved with us on a subgroup to look at digital developments further and how we can make sure these are responsive to your needs and nobody's left out or excluded. Next slide, please, Matt. Okay, so very briefly, I'm going to touch on the Council's digital programme and where we are on the journey. Thanks, Matt. As you know, the Plan for North Lanarkshire is our overarching strategic vision. Our plans to make North Lanarkshire the place to live, learn, work, invest and visit. And digital developments are key to a lot of our work streams. We've got specific programmes of work for each element of the Plan for North Lanarkshire to help us make our ambitions a reality. And the programmes of work that you see down the left of your screen, so numbers 3.1 transformation programme down to 72.1, the business intelligence model, those are very much digital work streams. But the ones over on the right, asset rationalisation and supporting people to live well-connected lives, for example, those are work streams that will be enhanced or enabled through digital connectivity and digital technologies. Thanks, Matt. Now, this looks a bit of a daunting slide, so I'll just be very brief and take you through the highlights. The Council has plans to be a leading digital authority across our economy, across our communities, across our workforce, and in how we do our own business. So in terms of the economy, we've spoken about connectivity already within the first 5 minutes of the meeting here in Shotts. I know it's an issue in your area, but we want to look at where we can improve North Lanarkshire's digital infrastructure to attract inward investment, help our existing companies to expand, and to create inclusive growth and jobs for our area. In terms of digital communities, we want to look at where we can use some of the new digital technologies to help older people, for example, to live independently in their own homes for longer, through sensors that maybe pick up if an elderly person has had a fall, or if they haven't gone back through to bed after being up in the middle of the night. And we can also use alerts to give that elderly person's family peace of mind, or to raise an awareness if, for example, that elderly person has had a fall or is in difficulty. In terms of digital transactions, we want to increase the ability for you to request council services online, to make payments online, and to do these transactions over your phone at a time that suits you. We've got Fiona on the call tonight, who's head of our people and organisational development. Within the council's own workforce, we want to ensure that our staff are digitally skilled and capable and competent. And we want to look at where we can use digital processes to free up resources and to avoid duplication and time-consuming manual processes that will allow us to release these resources to frontline services. And also, the digital workforce isn't just about the council's workforce, it's about North Lanarkshire's workforce, and about making sure that our children and our young people have got the skills so that they can compete and go for jobs in the new technologies that we're seeing springing up in the factories along the M8. And lastly, in terms of business intelligence, the council has got a wealth of data and information, but we don't always make best use of that. So we want to use digitisation to help the council make better informed decisions and to help us improve our services through identifying trends, where we've got blockages, where we've got services that maybe aren't performing as well as they should. Thanks, Matt. So, what does this mean for you in terms of the local agenda? I've mentioned digital communities, digital business, but our children and young people are our most important asset, and we want to ensure that they can fully take part and engage in the digital learning that at the moment is what's available to them through the lockdown restrictions, but there are great new opportunities for children when they do get back into school in computing science, in business studies, to equip them to compete for jobs and to take a career in the new digital technologies that are going to be with us in the future. Okay, Matt? It's not going to be easy. And before Christmas, you were working with Matt and Leanne to explore the issues for inclusion in your local outcome improvement and plan. And that exercise was done across all 9 community board areas. We've got the kind of headline findings from those meetings that you had. And in each of the 9 areas, digital inclusion was identified as an issue, with people really concerned that the increasing shift towards digital service delivery might actually result in some people being excluded or at risk of being left out. In 6 of the 9 areas, local people raised concerns about affordability for a monthly broadband subscription or to buy a device. In 6 of the localities, people also identified a need to increase general digital skills. And in 3 of those areas, it was highlighted that that's particularly important for older people who may be less confident in using laptops and devices and online services and apps. And there was also a concern in some of the localities that whilst digital's great because it allows us to have meetings like this remotely, there is the risk and the chance that if people are not connected, then they will be excluded and left out. So these are the issues that we know are out there. These are the issues that we want to work with you in addressing and resolving. Thanks, Matt. So what have we done so far in terms of digital connectivity? Well, we've got the community boards taking place remotely, live streamed, unless, as Matt explained at the top of the meeting, where we've got the Education Committee running on. We have, through the Scottish Government's Connecting Scotland programme and through our own education service, given out nearly 6,000 devices and connectivity solutions to families and vulnerable people so that they are not left out and so that children can get on board and do their digital learning at home while the schools are closed just now due to lockdown. We know that Wi-Fi and connectivity is an issue in some areas, and we're working to look at how we can provide affordable connection solutions in your local areas. And we're also looking to provide training to help people get on board, apply for jobs, complete benefit claims, and do the increasing amount of paperwork that is required to be done through digital channels now. Thanks, Matt. So I said I was going to ask for a favour at the end. Here it is now. What we would like you to do, and I'm mindful I have rattled through this, but what we would like you to do tonight is to think about digital service developments in shorts and to make sure that back in your groups, back in your organisations, people are aware of these digital developments and are beginning to have that conversation. So that if we can identify with you and with your groups what people's fears are, what people's concerns are, where people think their training needs are, we can work with you to resolve those. We would also like to ask you to encourage and support people to sign up for My Account. Can I have the My Account slide, please, Matt? Thanks very much. My Account is a Scottish initiative that allows you to create an account online, and through this you can request council services online, as I outlined at the start. Now at the moment our online services are largely around waste collection, so it's around reporting if your bin hasn't been uplifted or reporting if you want a medical bin pull out. But increasingly, we will see more council services switching over to My Account. And this will allow you to go online and, for example, make a payment, make a query about your council tax, report a pest control issue. We've recently rolled out online applications for the business support grants and the taxi drivers grants that have been introduced as part of the COVID response. So if you've got an elderly relative or a member of your family who's maybe not very sure about signing up for My Account, help them with that. And if you yourself aren't very sure, then get in touch with Community Learning and Development team, get in touch with Matt, get in touch with our digital champions, and we'll certainly help you with that and talk you through it. At the moment in North Lanarkshire, we've got just over 71,000 registrations for My Account, and our target is to reach 100,000 by the end of March. So come on, Shorts, help us with that. Matt, can I just have the last slide? And the last one, the takeaway. We realise this is new. We realise this is a big agenda. It's a challenging agenda. We can't do it ourselves. We would really like you to work with us and be part of the team. So if anyone tonight is in any way interested in finding out about digital developments in North Lanarkshire a little bit more, in helping us, please get involved. And you can do that either by giving me your name tonight, or giving Matt your name, or leaving a message with the Digital NL mailbox, and the address is on the screen there. What we're hoping to do is set up a wee subgroup of reps from across all 9 community boards, and we will discuss developments with you, we'll discuss your training needs with you, we'll discuss whatever issues you have in your local areas around digital inclusion. And we would also like to beg your indulgence by asking the community board to consider if we can come back every 6 months, so to every alternate meeting, with an update on where we're at. And that will allow us also to take stock of the issues or problems that you might experience. So we very much want to start a dialogue from tonight's meeting. I'm going to be quiet now and just ask if anybody's got any questions or anything that they want to raise with me. Thanks very much indeed for Matt taking us through that. Thanks very much indeed again, folks, for asking me along here tonight. It's really appreciated.
Thanks, Jennifer. That was a fantastic presentation. I think it's really, really important as we go forward to consider the progress towards digital NL. I think we really are in the midst of the 4th industrial revolution, and that doesn't just mean industry. It means so much more than that. I believe that, you know, we had spoken about this at the LOIP, which is a fantastic name. I really liked that when I heard that the other week there, the LOIP. So I'm quite sure there may be questions from people here tonight. So I'll open that up if people want to ask Jennifer a question about anything that she's said tonight.
Can I just come in there, Councillor Stevenson? It's not really a question. I suppose it's just to almost back up something that Jennifer had mentioned there regarding the My Account system. We're currently working with COSL on a national basis to try and integrate My Account into the Council engagement platform. And the idea is that in future, when we're doing community-led engagements, consultations, voting exercises, people that are registered for My Account will be able to directly access that through the Council platform. So as much as just now it's very much about council functions being delivered, it will allow us to engage far wider in the future. So it was definitely worthwhile everyone signing up at an early stage for that.
Thanks, Ross. I think you're absolutely right. You know, the more people, 71,000, I thought that was incredible, Jennifer. You know, I didn't think that there would be as many people on that. And if you can head towards 100,000, you know, by March, that would be fantastic. Is there anyone else? I don't see anyone in the chat bar. Is there anyone that wanted to make a point about Jennifer's presentation or ask a question? No? Okay. Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks very much for that. If we move on, sorry.
Chair, sorry, just before you move on, would it be all right if I stayed for the rest of the meeting?
Yes, yes, of
Thanks
course.
very much.
There may be some
Thank you.
points, Jennifer, that come up later on anyway, because when we get to Community Matters Agenda 9, people may have had a chance to digest what you've been putting out there, so they may have a question at that point. But that's great, and the more you hear about some of the things, because there was quite a conversation at the LOIP round about digital, so it might be good because people may come in then. Jean?
I would just like to say that at Van Ale we've introduced a new opportunity for volunteers, and what it is to go out and help lonely, elderly, isolated people in the communities. And I was thinking My Account, if maybe an elderly person didn't know how to get access to it, it's well to keep in mind. I can post it on the chat for you. I'll give you a note what the opportunity involves, and you can maybe pass it on or use it or get in contact with me for more information. That was all.
Can I just ask a couple of things? Sorry, I put my hand up there. Just about the My Account. We've spoke about that with Allington and Hartwood Community Council, and a few people have said they're quite negative about it because they don't get any feedback that they put in, and because obviously it's mostly waste services issues, they put forward an issue and never ever hear anything back. So they feel that by phoning up it's so much easier because you get to speak to somebody and the issue gets resolved. Just to give you that feedback. And also when we're talking about, we spoke to a few people because in Hartwood it is very much an elderly population, and so to try and getting people to go online and things with that, and we've obviously offered to help, but what they say is that there's so much scams and there's so much fraud going about online that people are terrified to actually use online services and take that step, that leap forward, because they're terrified of things happening, cybercrime. So just like that.
Thanks, Karen. It's a really good point. I think, you know, that we're trying to use digital services to make it, you know, more inclusive and get people out, so there's a two-way conversation, because it has to be, you know, whatever digital service you use, it has to be user-friendly, it has to be easier to use. So those are very good points to feed back. Thanks for that. Is there anyone else that wants to make a point about digital NL? Yeah, Mary, sorry, on you go.
Can I just come in? I could mirror kind of what Karen was saying there, because in the work that we've done out speaking with people since last year, there's quite a bit of irritability with the amount of digital information that's only available now to people. And it's just, in fact, I brought that up with our own meeting. So people are finding, yeah, for some it's helpful, but for others, they would rather just have the more sort of usual method of communication. And they're finding it frustrating, actually, if they're lifting a phone and they can't get through to whoever it is, because there's so many avenues and departments blocked off the now, and they're just going around in circles and then eventually getting led back to a website which they don't want. That's me.
Thanks, Mary. I think that's really good feedback. You know, I think we're on the cusp of, you know, where we do have some people who have problems with digital skills, and Jennifer was speaking about that. You know, if we can certainly help with sort of training and things. But I think you're right. I think there is that cusp where, you know, sort of moving over to digital is going to be slightly problematical. And I think the council has to be aware of that, to take everyone with them. And I think we're right at that inflection point right now. It's a really good point, and I'm sure Jennifer is listening to that intently. So, yeah. Is there anyone else who would want to make a point with a digital NL? No, you're making this far too easy tonight. So, if we move on to general updates, agenda item 6, and it's terms of reference feedback. Matt, who's going to speak to that?
That'll be myself, Councillor. Yeah, thank you. I wanted just to start by saying thanks to everybody who has provided a response about the terms of reference. There was a number of points raised. One of them was around voting rights, and the way that the voting rights will kind of take shape is that it'll reflect the elected representation on the board. It's preferable, though, that decisions will be made through consensus, based in clear evidence and community engagement. So it's not just about making a decision because you sit on the board, it's based on the evidence that we're finding from local communities. Voting should really be a last resort if consensus can't be reached through the kind of normal processes. The other thing that was raised as well was in terms of language and terminology that's used within the terms of reference. What we intend to do, and we assure you that we'll look at all the abbreviations that's contained within it, and we'll explain them fully. We'll also provide a glossary of terms at the end to help people's understanding of what's been meant in terms of the terms of reference. We want to take on board all the feedback, and what we'll do is we'll recirculate the terms of reference with the amendments in it for you to have a look at. If there's anything else that I've missed tonight that you think should have still been fed back, then let me know, and we can make sure that we take that on board as well. Okay, thanks, Councillor.
Thanks, Christine. Thanks very much for that. If I can move on to item 2, board development sessions, and I believe that's you, Matt, that's going to take that up.
Sure, thanks, Chair. It's just an opportunity to advise the people attending the board today that we're looking forward to having some development sessions during the course of this board and previous boards. You'll have heard a number of topics that has been covered tonight, the digital NL and the local outcome improvement plans. We'll talk later on about the local development programme and other issues that are affecting the council and the wider partnership. We're looking to have an opportunity to have board development sessions where we can invite members of the board along to specific awareness raising and training sessions that we can look at these particular issues to help you develop your understanding of these particular issues. So when you come along to the board meetings, you've got a wider understanding of what the issues are that are going to come to you over the next weeks, weeks and months in relation to the council's business and also the wider partnerships business. So if you've got if people are interested in participating in these development sessions, we will ask you, and you can let us know who wants to be involved in that. And if there's any specific issues of council business or indeed partnership business that you're interested in hearing more about, away from the board setting, just more a kind of less formal setting, just to sit and to discuss particular issues, then you can let us know about that. But we'll keep you informed of that over the next few weeks as we pull those dates together after these next round of boards. So that's really what I wanted to do to update on that one, Chair.
Thanks for that, Matt. I think that would be good. You know, I think that more that people get involved and, you know, they realise that the council's listening to them, and if they get training and development through that, I think that's a fantastic idea. So that would be really good. If we can move on to 6.3, again, it's you, Matt. So it's local development programme. If you want to start with that.
Thanks again, Chair. This report is just to update the community board just in the current position in relation to the projects that are ongoing within the Shotts Community Board area. Appendix 1 gives you an idea of where we are with the projects that have been approved previously at the community board for that locality partnerships, and Appendix 2 gives you an idea of some of the other projects that already came forward and been proposed previously. Some have been approved in principle by the community board, and there's a couple other ones on there about some further projects we're looking to consider going forward, with the event of further funding being made available for the local development programme. We're not in a position at the moment to confirm where we are with the funding at that, but we just wanted to update you in relation to where we are with the projects that are currently being delivered, and to take on board any other projects that people have got in mind. So hopefully the appendices reflect where we are with that just now, but I'm happy to take any questions, Chair.
Are there any questions for Matt round about that?
Yep. Could I
Yes,
come in?
sorry, on you go.
I'm going to bring something up that we already discussed, and it's the piece of land at Trerbothy Road going into Southfield. And as I've already explained at our own meeting, Trerbothy lost the swing park there, and we were basically left with nothing. I mean, we've got the football park, but that's a paid facility, so that's different. And there's still a strong feeling that the council surely has some responsibility towards the Trerbothy area to do something for it, and money should actually be ring-fenced, because this goes right back to a year past, not last summer, the summer before, when the community council invited Jonathan Smith up, which he came, and that was when the parking at Stane Corner came on. But he also agreed that that piece of land would be suitable for something to be done with. So as it stands, pre-participatory budgeting, every area of Shotts had something, and Trerbothy didn't have anything. And post-participatory budgeting, every area in Shotts has something, and Trerbothy still has nothing. So surely, out of fairness, there should be something that the council should actually be looking at to try and redress that shortfall. I mean, there's surely got to be some responsibility there to do something for Trerbothy, and for it to come down to a vote, which it's not guaranteed. So, like, take Dykehead, they've got the big swing park, they've got a smaller swing park, which I know is still to get finished. They're going to have this Muga, I don't know how to say it, you know. So say Dykehead was, you know, voted and Dykehead got something again. It's not, this isn't leaving a good feeling. And equally, if it was Spring Hill, you know, they've got the swing park now, they're going to benefit from this motor track thing. I don't know these names, but they're, you know, that's going to benefit. The Staying in the Works Corner has benefited from the Staying Gardens. Something's going to get done there. So Torbothy could continually be outvoted. And rather than participatory budget and bringing the community together, it could actually split it.
Thanks, Mary. I think you're making a really good point about shots. You know, shots has been described to me in the past like, you know, a bit of string with two knots at the end, and people talk about, you know, Dykehead and or, you know, Staying Spring Hill. But I think that we've also got to recognise that Torbothy's there as well. I know that Ross had spoken before about the distances between play parks and things, and that's maybe something that we can take forward through the community board, and we can look to see what we can do with Torbothy. But certainly happy for Matt to speak to that, or Ross right now, or if we want to do it later on, because I think it's a really good point for the people of Torbothy. Matt or Ross, would you want to speak to that right now?
Chair, if I can come in first, then maybe pass on to Ross, if that's okay. But take on board everything that Mary's saying in relation to the resources in the areas, and it's something we're happy to look at as we go forward. We'll look at the alternative investment that might come into the area. We can look at all the proposals that come forward. There will be criteria for proposals going forward, the feasibility of projects that are being considered, whether or not they tie in. You know, if it is play, Ross can touch a bit more on this going forward, but if it is play, then we do have to consider what's already in the area, and we wouldn't just put something into one area because there is something else in another area. That's not a criteria we would use, as much as that might satisfy a lot more of the local communities. We just don't have the resources to do it on that basis. But we're certainly more than happy to work with local communities to consider the aspirations and what the local communities want to be seen taken forward in their area. We'll certainly work with local communities to do that. But maybe Ross wants to come in with some additional information.
Just really to back that up, I suppose, Mark, Mary and I have had this chat out with the meeting, and I think it's fair to point out through the PB process there wasn't actually any projects put forward for the Torbothy area, so it's not that site lost out on the voting process. I think Shots was successful in all the projects that were put forward as part of that wider Wishaw PB. So I think what we'd said was we do have a rationale when we look at any sort of play development. All of the work that's been carried out in Shots has been community-led. So when groups come to us or organisations, we look to see what's feasible, how can we support them, and how can we develop facilities, which is what's had with the play area upgrades, with the multi-use games area that's got in, for a couple of examples, Staying Garden as well. I think we're quite happy to look at any proposals that are put forward for Torbothy. What we're probably not in a position to do as a council is identify suitable ways to use open bits of ground. There's just too many of them, and we don't have the capacity to do that for every individual open area. But if you want to have further discussions about the potential for the site or ideas that the community are pushing forward, I'm more than happy to do that away from the board meeting.
Can I just come back on that?
Yeah, Mary. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's really disappointing because whenever Jonathan Smith came up, you know, it sounded really hopeful, you know, that we'd be able to do something. But at that point, the projects had already been submitted, and he said it was too late for that year. And of course, because the process of participatory budgeting had to be re-looked at, because, as we all know, there was a lot of complaints about what had happened, right? So it's only, you know, at that time, the Community Council didn't realise to put something in. So it was all done ahead of our knowledge at that time. But it just seems very unfair that for Torbothy, nothing can actually be looked at unless it comes under this participatory budgeting, especially whenever we were under the impression at the Community Council at that time, speaking with Jonathan Smith, that, yeah, that's something that's going to be there and something will be done with it. And it's like, and I'm not saying that's been done deliberately, but that was our impression. And, you know, we weren't advised to then submit anything formally. So it's kind of changed for us, you know, and I just think it's unfair. The rest of Shots has benefited pre and post participatory budgeting, and Terbothy still hasn't got anything. And the likelihood of them getting something in a voting incident, I don't think is very high.
I say, Mary,
Mary, sorry, sorry, Ross, can I just come in? I think maybe, Mary, what we can do is, because I know we've sort of slightly spoken about it before with Ross, but maybe we could take that offline and we could speak about that and see the sort of parameters that Ross can set out and what we can do about that. But certainly good, it would be good to have a discussion about that, definitely.
Right.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you.
So this is my favourite. I've been waiting to say this all time. So, you know, 6-4 is the LOIP. When I heard this described as LOIP by Maureen and Ross, I thought that's fantastic, because when you read it out and you go local output improvement plans, it just doesn't really roll off the tongue. But LOIP is absolutely fantastic, Maureen. So you're up.
Okay, I'm going to just share this presentation with you. I promise I'll get it through quickly. Just let me know when it's coming up there. Can everybody see that?
Yeah, we can see it. Yeah.
That's good. That's the first pressure out the way. We were worried this wasn't going to work tonight. I've had connectivity problems all day. So it's a quick update. The LOIP subgroup had our first meeting last week on the 16th, and what we were basically looking at was the sort of emerging themes that had already come out from all the engagement that's already happened. As you all know, there have already been 3 phases of engagement so far. We are now in phase 4 of that, and that is part of that is the subgroups getting together to look at the emerging themes, to start putting some meat on the bones, to start putting some short, mid and long-term actions in place. But it's not just about the subgroup, it's about those people starting the conversation in the subgroup and widening that out as much as possible, which is why this has come to the boards tonight. And both this presentation and the draft table that we have written up from that meeting will be sent out to you as well for comment and to add anything, to see where linkages can be made so that other groups and organisations can actually join in with what's happening and put forward other ideas for action. So quickly, you can see the recap in front of you there, the first 3 phases. The Short Life Working Group has had our first meeting, and we have identified those potential priorities and have had to think about ideas for solutions and actions. The action planning recording template, which again isn't an easy one to say, this is what will be populated. This will be the kind of official document that sits behind the LOIP for each of the actions. The identified priorities so far, and we're not saying that this is an exhaustive list. If anybody thinks that we have missed anything, if there are gaps, if there are things that you don't think have come up that are particularly relevant for Shot's area, we want to know about them. So far we've got mental health, environment, community safety, tackling poverty and equality, community engagement, digital inclusion, and COVID-19 recovery. And what's really interesting is that we had a lot of comments around about digital inclusion, and it was seen as kind of almost an overarching theme because it impacts on so many different areas of a person's life. And it's the things that you don't have to think about if you are not living in deprivation. So it's a really important one. And I think there are so many people in Shots who have difficulties with digital poverty. The actions, again, this is not an exhaustive list. When you're sent the table out, you'll see how many of these actions have actually been put forward so far. There's a lot to digest. I've basically picked them out at random. They're not in any particular order. It's all about supporting projects that are already on the ground. It's about looking at the local anchor organisations and key organisations who are already dealing with things on the ground and how we support them to be able to do it, because they can do that quick response that maybe our bigger organisations are not able to do. So it's how we support that going forward and make it a regular feature of the work that we do together, rather than it being a response to a pandemic. There are a number of different things going on. I will not go through them all, but things like Spring Hill Hub development that's already been discussed, the simplifying the language and all of the work that we are doing, whether it's engagement, whether it's within the boards, to ensure that we are being inclusive and welcoming and not excluding people through the language that's being used. One of the things that's happening up in Shotts in the short term is the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service have an ongoing action to engage with residents in particular hotspot areas, and they're providing bin chains and padlocks, because that is one of the things that's come up under community safety, is a lot of fire raising and wheelie bins being set on fire. So the hope is that this will help to alleviate some of those problems in the short terms. A very recent development that's actually still being worked out as well. One of the things that came up at our LOIP meeting was about police visibility in the area and how difficult that is and how we would like to increase that. And it's not just about targeting young people and painting them as villains. That's not the case at all. It's about how the police have a better chance to interact with the communities as well and work in partnership with our youth services and with the organisations on the ground, so that there is better communication between young people, residents, police. And it's not only when something happens that they have to be called out, that there is actually a relationship there with the communities. So Ross has actually been doing a bit of work trying to broker a deal about sharing our pool cars, because they're obviously not being utilised to their full extent right now because a lot of us are working from home. So that's another thing that's going on. But and one of the things I wanted to mention, sorry, is we're going to look at doing a consultation regarding the West Benhar wind farm, which is imminent. Thanks to June for letting us know about that. We're looking at engaging with the developers regarding their plans and what the community benefits will be, and doing that sooner rather than later. So that's something that the subgroup, or perhaps a subgroup of the subgroup, and any other interested parties will be looking to take forward. Next to each of the actions that have been outlined in the draft table, we'll be looking to put in who's actually responsible for those actions. Feel free to put the name of your organisation against those if you think that you can actually help with those things too, or if there's something in particular that you can add to the mix. And the next steps, the groups will continue to meet to work on the plans and to engage with partners and with anybody who is interested in having an input, basically, to develop the actions. We'll have the draft plans outlining the priorities and the development leads agreed by April 2021, so it's a fairly quick time frame. But what I would say is that remember that the LOIPs, it's not a done deal when this document is done and presented. It's still a starting point. This will be a live document that will be updated regularly and that anybody can feed into. So the initial plans will be approved and published from June and July 2021, and the priorities will be a regular part of the community board agenda moving forward and of the subgroups. We will report back regularly on all the different things that are happening. I was actually really glad to hear tonight about the digital subgroup that's been set up, because that's one less thing that we have to work with then. That one's taken out of our hands. And an annual report will be prepared to highlight successes, because as well as the kind of mid and long term goals, because the LOIP is a 6-year document. So as well as looking at that kind of 2 to 4 years or the 3 to 5 years, what we want to look at is publicising those quick wins as well. Things like the PB project developments that will go ahead this year. If we can sort something out with the wind farms around the capital funding, then you know, it's about showing people that the board is working for the area and that these are the things that are happening because people are speaking to each other. So I'm going to leave it there. Does anybody have any questions? I'm going to stop sharing this just now. I hope that wasn't too fast for everybody. As I said, all the information that you're going to need will come out, and the additional information will send you the presentation and also the table that sits behind that as well. No questions. He's letting me off easy.
That was great. And just to give everybody a chance to digest that, you know, when I sat in the Lloyd meeting, I thought it was fantastic because I was starting to hear things and groups getting involved, and they had really valid points. And we might come to that a little bit later on. But if I can just pay tribute to, you know, one of the things that was raised at the time, Councillor Quigley, Claire raised the fact that we had problems where, you know, the bins, as you mentioned, had been set on fire. And, you know, the fire brigade were there, and they mentioned that, you know, they have chains and padlocks for that type of thing. And they were actually up that afternoon to the place that we mentioned and helped people out. So it was absolutely fantastic. The other thing I would mention is, you mentioned West Benhar Wind Farm. Being in contact with them, I sent them an email because they had sent us stuff later than everyone else. But I sent an email to them and said, look, what community groups are going to benefit from this? And they said they were open to speaking to lots of different people. But they certainly said that, you know, Hart Hill, Eastfield, Shotts, but also Fauldhouse would fall under their remit as well. So it would be good to get in very quickly to speak with them about that. And maybe just the last point, just very, very quickly. I know we're talking about Shotts quite a lot, and we've got Karen here tonight from Allington and Hartwood, and we've got Marlene from Hart Hill. You know, it is the Shotts area, and I think everyone understands that. When we're speaking about Shotts, it's the full sort of Fartissett area, and I think that we probably will have representation from Salisbury at some point as well, hopefully going forward, because they're aware of this forum as well. So, having said all that, is there anyone that would like to ask maybe Maureen any questions about that? I see that Des has come in and he said that he's got an ongoing initiative between police and fire regarding deliberate fires within the Shotts and Fartissett area, and maybe we might pick that up later on because I think that's a concern for Des, as he spoke about at the Lloyd. Is there anyone who wants to make a comment or ask Maureen about anything that she's gone through?
Chair, could I possibly just come in just to supplement some of the things that Maureen said there? Maureen did a great job of covering all the points there. I suppose one of the things for me is just to, what we want the community boards to remember is that there is a requirement for us to produce local plans, so it is about them being community-led, but there is a requirement under the Community Empowerment Act, and one of the key elements of that is that we must be targeting our shared partnership and community resources to reducing inequalities within communities. So while it's about, you know, engagement and local communities influence, and we need to make sure that we're always keeping that focusing on those communities that really need our attention and that really need, so that, you know, we will need to be identifying maybe specific neighbourhoods that we would want to target some action towards, and making sure that we're just looking at the other kind of inequalities groups throughout the work. That will come probably at a later stage. And I suppose the other point, just to touch on what Maureen was saying there about, yeah, absolutely, the actions within the plans might change, but the actual priorities, they will be published from the kind of probably from about around June time, after we finalise the draft plans at the end of April. So the priorities will be published, because that is a requirement of the Community Empowerment Act as well. But there will be opportunities to do kind of regular updates and kind of tweak some of the actions, and that the priorities really do need to be aligned as well. Although as local priorities, this is about how we deliver the key priorities within the plan for North Lanarkshire locally as well. So I think just to kind of, Maureen did a great job there in terms of going over all the kind of local priorities and things, but just to kind of keep those in focus as well, that we do need to kind of meet those requirements of the Community Empowerment Act as well. But we'll pick up on that at a later stage as well.
Thanks, Leanne. I think that's a really important point to consider going forward as well. We need to be all aware of that. Is there anyone else who maybe wants to make comment?
Hi, Chair. Can I just sneak in briefly?
Yes, Martin.
Thanks, Chair. Maureen, thanks for documenting in relation to the EDF West Benhar wind farm. It's only been the last couple of days we've been notified about it from Sarah Dooley, I believe, Chair, from EDF. So we've been communicating with them just in the last couple of days, and it's good to see that potentially going forward, GBT may benefit, the corresponding with EDF, and also Hart Hill and Eastfield Community Council. Now, I think potentially there could be, I think it's due for completion in June 22, I believe, Maureen, and potentially there could be up to £150,000 to be shared between the local community. Unfortunately, in being parochial, some of that funding available will go to West Lothian, but it's great to see Marlene smiling there in June because GBT and Harthill and Eastfield Community Council are in there as well. Okay, thanks, Chair.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. John?
Can I mention, when you're putting out the message about these meetings, put out Greenwich Mean Time, because I went into a meeting the other day, Eastern Time, and I was there on mowing, but there was nowhere else did it mention Greenwich Mean Time, and I thought it was 5:30 in the evening, but it was actually 10 o'clock in the morning. So I think if you'd make it clear what the time is in this country, that's leading to a bit of confusion.
Thanks, John. You know, fair comment. I think we can do that in the future. We don't want Eastern Standard Time because that's well out. Marlene, you wanted to make comment?
Yeah, I don't think it's Harthill and Eastfield Community Council. I think what it is the HEG group, because they're the ones that deal with the wind farm money. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can, Marlene. I think they've got experience and they've already distributed money and they've got experience of dealing with that, haven't they? So maybe
it doesn't actually come to the community council. It's all wind farm money is dealt with through Foundation Scotland and Harthill, Eastfield and Greenrig Community Group.
The HEG.
The HEG.
Yeah, and I think that you're absolutely right. I think Martin was just making the point.
It's just to clarify that.
Yeah, I think Martin's just making the point. It'd be really good to have all the communities involved in that.
It would be terrific. Yeah.
You know, as quickly as possible, as Maureen pointed out. So I think that would be good. So all the sort of wind farms. So is there anyone else who wanted to comment on Maureen or ask her any questions about her presentation?
Could I just say something, Councillor Stevenson, that just go back to the Ben Hard wind farm. The negotiations started 2 years ago for this, and Marlene's right, HEG getting better together and Fauldhouse Community Development Trusts were meeting, so I've got lots of papers that we did with this. The planning permission was refused, so they went back to the drawing board, and this is how we've had notification. It's now 7 turbines. So there has been a lot of work done about the community benefit and community members meeting, and Marlene's right, it's been the HEG committee that's been meeting to discuss that. So it is for all the community, it's not just for certain groups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, it's a really good point, June. And I think that, you know, hopefully we can try and take advantage of that, and not take advantage, maybe not the right words, but take advantage to have that £150,000, as Martin described. If we can have communities talking to them, that would be fantastic to make sure that we're represented there. So, anyone else?
Marlene, the communication I've got from EDF, it says that they've been in touch with the following: Harthill and Eastfield Community Council, Fauldhouse Community Council, Greenrig Community Council, Shot's Getting Better Together, Harthill, Eastfield and Greenrig Community Group, Fauldhouse Community Development Trust. That's it, exhaustive. Thanks.
Thanks, Martin. Can I bring Craig? Craig would like to speak now as well.
All right, I was just to touch on what's been said a wee bit and take note on the priorities that we'd listed in the presentation. Maureen, I know transport wasn't listed as a kind of set priority in there, but we touched on it through the kind of discussions in the meeting, and it feeds into a lot of stuff like community engagement and environmental stuff and things like that. But the West Ben Hard wind farm as well, I think it's important that we look at the path network within that, so it's a good link between Shotts and into Eastfield, Harthill, off-road. So that's a key active travel link. And if we're looking at the kind of connectivity and the town vision for Shotts and that development in green space, I think we really need to be working in terms of the communities to really make a strong core paths active travel network, because you're looking at the likes of Shotts connecting to other communities. You've got the heavy goods vehicles coming from A71 to M8, so it's not really good for linking all the communities. But when you've got that great link between, like you say, Harthill and Salisbury that you looked at yourself, Kenny, and then if you've got good green space linked up to the Windfarms core paths. In Harthill and Salisbury, and you've got opportunities to link into Blackridge on the NCN 75, so the cycle network, which runs from Glasgow to Edinburgh. It's got a great way to get people encouraged into cycling and kind of better networks. So I think being attentive to that when we're looking at how we're kind of linking up the communities rather than just saying, right, we've got a kind of plan, a vision for here's the kind of primary routes or whatever it says in the vision. I think it's primary connections, linking here and there and growing the green network. But if we can do that with the likes of this West Ben Har, and then looking at how money can be invested in Harthill and that, so just kind of taking note of that. And I think transport is a priority for the Lloyds should be something. And I don't know if in terms of the transport, I noticed in the LDP programme a lot of the things are parking projects. It was just to find out a bit more about them if there is anything, because I think it's good that we're parking on pavements and stuff off the road to benefit pedestrians and get more people walking, but it's just to find out more about how the programmes will be managed, if they're going to be free parking and the kind of intentions behind it.
Thanks, Craig. I think for everyone's information, Craig's been doing, through the auspices of Shots GBT, he's been doing some really good work on transport, and we've been looking at some of the Sustrans things. And I see there's something on the chat there that, Maureen's asking as well. Can we speak about that through the LOIP? I think there's great opportunities there for better transport and more healthy transport, and more people have become aware of that, Craig, through the pandemic. And I know you've been doing a lot of work with that. So it would be great if that could be taken forward through the LOIP as well. Is there anyone else that would like to comment at this point?
Chair, Matt Costello, just to come in on Craig's point there regarding the local development programme and the potential for the kind of parking projects, just to update, these tend to be car parking projects, Craig, that take place within local communities, within housing estates and housing schemes, and they are for that purpose. They're mainly aimed at road safety initiatives to try and get cars off the road, to make crossing areas safer, etc., and support that kind of activity. And that they're in areas that they're not in areas that it's public town centre parking and along those lines that we would look at. This is more community-based parking projects that we've supported in the past, and they say for that purpose to make local communities more accessible in that way.
Thanks, Matt. Are we ready to move on, or is there anything that you want to discuss with the LOIP? No, happy to move on. Okay. So, Matt, if we can go to the 6.5, the board reference subgroups, is there someone going to speak to that right now?
That'll be me, Councillor Stevenson.
Thanks, Christine.
Hi.
Thank you.
I just want to say it's really interesting to hear the priorities that's coming out through Maureen's kind of presentation earlier, because I want to talk about the kind of subgroups, and I know at the last couple of meetings we've chatted about potential subgroups, and we've got a few things that people have put forward already. But interestingly, it would be really good to have subgroups linked to the priorities that are being established and being identified through the kind of LOIP engagement. And as I said, it was interesting to see that things like community safety were raised in that, which have also been raised previously in terms of a subgroup, which is great, and that's what we'd be looking for. In terms of some of the things that have come through so far, we had the rail partnership was identified, community safety, participatory budgeting subgroup, and obviously we heard earlier on about the kind of subgroup in terms of digital delivery, and because that also links to the work that's come through some of the discussions around about the LOIP. The other one that was brought up previously as well in terms of a subgroup was the potential business improvement district, and I'd circulated that because that was one of the things yourself, Councillor, had asked to have circulated at the last meeting. So that was the ones that have been put forward so far. What we'd be looking for is for local people to kind of identify what are the key subgroups that we need to start looking at, and is there any community organisations or key organisations that feel that they would want to kind of chair some of those meetings? If they've got the key skills and experiences that they want to take that forward, then we would be really happy to hear that. But certainly it's important that we link back to the priorities that are coming through, and that's great. So thanks very much for that.
Thanks, Christine. I think that those are really important points. Is there anyone who would like to take any of those points up or ask any questions of Christine? No. Okay, we'll move on. If we move on now to the community matters, and we've got agenda item 9, which is input from local community groups. So agenda items from any of the community groups. And you may want to refer back to, maybe never get into anything that we spoke about before, or you may want to raise items that we haven't spoken about previously. So I'll open that up to everyone.
Chair, just before you go into that one, because it's just to take you back to the last, there's one item just before that, and it's just about the town hub.
Sorry, petitions. Yeah, I missed that, Matt, sorry.
There's no petitions on this one, but there's just another point regarding the town hub engagement. I just wanted to draw attention to the meeting for shots that will take place on Thursday, the 18th of March, 6:30 to 8:30, about consultation on the town hubs that's going to be taking place. And we will send the link out to anybody that's interested in participating in that meeting for further discussion. We just wanted to highlight that here today so people were aware that meeting's taking place.
Thanks, Matt. I was too keen to jump on community matters there, so sorry about that. And as Matt said, no petitions at this moment in time. So now if I can move on, and I did jump, I apologise about that. If I can jump on to agenda item 9.
Could I come in with the town hub?
Sorry, Mary, sorry.
It was just to ask, because I realise this is going to go ahead on March the 18th, and obviously some people are going to be excluded from that because they don't use internet or they're not comfortable or don't want to. So what's the longer term plan for engaging with the public? Is that on the book? I mean, we know it's not going to happen just now because of the restrictions, but what is the longer term plan for full engagement with the public?
Hi, Matt, do you want to come back with that?
Yeah, absolutely. The meetings are obviously being held online currently due to the restrictions for COVID. If we're back in normal circumstances, we would be having meetings out within the local communities, giving people an opportunity for face-to-face interaction. And that's something, as soon as we get an opportunity to do that for this, and really for any other discussions or consultations, that's the way we'll be taking that forward. We will use online elements, we will use videos, but certainly we will still continue to use opportunities within our local communities to speak to people directly.
But what if the opportunity doesn't happen sort of within the next few months for us to have public meetings? Are things just going to go ahead with the information you collate, or will there be a delay until people can have public meetings? Because there's quite strong feeling about that opportunity is going to be denied.
Well, there won't be, if there's an issue in having public meetings as in face-to-face meetings, we'll adhere to government guidelines in relation to that. There's nothing we can do. We're still carrying on the business of the council and the plan for North Lanarkshire going forward. That's still continuing, and we'll continue to do that, Mary. But we will try and allow access to information. If people need access, if information needs to be sent out to individuals or posted out, for example, these are things we could arrange if people really need to see information that they can't access online, to try and make sure that we get in touch with as many people as possible and allow feedback in as many ways as we can. So we have looked to say online through people watching videos, through people emailing us in, through attending meetings such as this. But if you're aware of people who can't access that and are looking for further information to be made available to them, let us know about that and we'll do what we can to ensure that information is shared.
No, and I know I appreciate the difficulty, obviously, as for yourselves as well, because it's easier to have a public meeting, but people feel they're not getting to hear what other people would say that would maybe make them think in a different way, and that's the link that's kind of missing. But it was just to give you that feedback anyway. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. That was a good question, and thanks to Matt for replying as well. I think that's really important that everybody has an equal opportunity to be able to engage with the process. So if I could take you on to agenda item 9, which is the input from local community groups. So I'll open it up. If anyone wants to speak to maybe something that they heard before, didn't get a chance to speak, or if they want to bring something else up, then please feel free.
Hi, Chair. I'll just give you a quick police update if it's appropriate to do that at this point.
Well, I think I was going to bring in Stevie under 10, but I think if nobody's coming in, then feel free to come in and give us an update. That would be great.
Well, could I jump in again? I know I'm talking a lot. I just want to go back to the meeting that myself and John Joe had with yourself, Ross Dunn and Maureen Simpson. Is this an appropriate part to bring that meeting in and how we go forward?
Yeah, Mary, if you want to bring that up under 9, if you want to raise some points with that, then that's absolutely fine. And then we can come to Stevie after that. Okay, is that okay, Stevie? Yeah.
So just to go back to, we had raised the concerns about the public and ourselves about infrastructure and the level of house building that was going on in the area. And I think we had a constructive meeting about that. And there was agreement that the area of sort of Stain, the traffic congestion, Turbothy, the level of house building in Spring Hill should be looked at. And also I raised the points about public consultation, again going back to us not being able to have public meetings, and you know, people feeling perhaps uncomfortable about having to submit comments about planning applications because their names and addresses are published online and things. So at the last community board meeting, it was decided that we should have a meeting out with that, which is the feedback that I'm giving just now. And at that meeting, it was decided it should come back to the community board. So we're now back at the community board, and so I don't know, how do we progress?
Thanks, Mary. Maybe just bring in Ross at that point, because Ross was involved at that meeting. So sorry, Ross, putting you on the spot.
Thanks very much, Chair. I appreciate that. I think what we discussed, we have spoke to planning colleagues over various matters over the past few months. The consultation that's available online is the only planning consultation that's going on just now. Government guidelines are that the consultation developers are carrying out is sufficient and as required for engagement. Planning responses are always put in online just now under the planning portal. So if people want to comment on any planning application, that's going into that online system, Mary. Whether there's a way to anonymise that or redact it, I'm not sure. But that's how the planning process works, and planning won't be changing that process. And it's the same as the consultation. Developers can put their consultation online. They can engage for a certain amount of time, for a certain amount of period. What we would do is when we get notification of that, we would share that with elected members, with community groups, and with anyone that we think would be interested in that planning process, share it as widely as we can to allow people to engage. But certainly for the next short to medium term while anyway, there's not going to be any face-to-face consultation events around planning applications or developments. It will all remain online, and whilst I appreciate that that does exclude certain members of the community, it is the way that these things are moving. So planning wise, I know there was questions about Turbothy, about the level of consultation. Planning seemed to be satisfied with that the developers carried out what they've had to require for the required amount of time as well. There's not really much we can do about that. What was the other point, sorry?
The other point was about the level, or the lack rather, of infrastructure to accommodate the level of house building that's happening. And we've already got problems at Stain Corner, which is just heightened and heightened and heightened. And going back, one of the previous councillors was looking at trying to get part of Stain Gardens made into parking, but that's not been feasible. But we've not had a great increase in population, and the level of traffic has really increased, and it's problematic for people who are living in this area trying to get from A to B, never mind A to Z. If we continue increasing the population to this over 10,000, which seems to be what's wanted, what's wanted to be achieved, how on earth are we supposed to travel in the area where about another 1,500 houses been built? And that's not just the number of people or the number of cars, because the increase in traffic isn't due to a great increase in population. It's due to each house having more than 1 or 2 cars now. So how do we accommodate the infrastructure? And this is what's been highlighted in the Turbothy area, that the level of infrastructure is not there to accommodate the level of population that we have just now, never mind if it's continually added to. And going back to the town redevelopment, again, there's plans there for more house building. There's more pockets that we're aware of where there's potential developments, and we end up with all these private houses as well, and it's not social housing. It's just becoming a bigger and bigger problem. And for the people who are staying here, I'm actually going to be quicker going from where I stay to Livingston than what I'm going here to Dykehead, because of the level of traffic that's there. It is a big problem, and it's only set to worsen.
I think it's probably fair to say that Shotts isn't the only place that's seen such a large increase in traffic volumes. And a lot of that is due to multi-vehicle households, and where we can, I think, as Matt outlined earlier, we do carry out parking projects. You'll have seen on the report tonight the Stay and Garden parkings for some work when budgets are available. All of these new developments as well have off-road parking provided for the houses, but the real issue is houses have multiple cars now at each house. We can't build car parks everywhere, and I don't think MD's got that desire. So really it's a cultural shift that we need. Craig was talking earlier about active travel and about different ways to connect communities together. But people at this point really aren't willing to give up their vehicles. I think that's the crux of the matter. And Shotts also isn't unique in one of the towns in North Lanarkshire with a single road in and out. We have that in other places as well. And we do have congestion issues, but we maybe need to be creative about how we can maybe try and combat that.
I appreciate what you're saying, and I can go with what you're saying, but I think one of the problems that actually has happened is, and it goes back to Shotts not having a public consultation about whether it wanted to remain a village or become a town. That the public were denied that consultation. We're now in the situation we are a town, and we've to become a town, whether we like it or not, and all that brings. And part of that is losing our identity to more and more houses, more and more congestion. And I know people who are actually wanting to leave the area because they've moved to the area because it was quiet, it was rural, and they're just not liking it. And now we're in a position where wanting to attract people to stay here, and the people who are staying here are wanting to move away. So it's not an ideal setup.
It's not. I think there's not much I can really add to that point, but some we can certainly pick up out with the meeting, I think, and perhaps move on just now.
Yeah, I think we could pick that up. I think the inverse, Mary, sometimes is that people, are desperate for housing, but I take your point where you're saying that creates problems for infrastructure. That might be something that we could speak offline again with Ross, and maybe Craig would like to be involved with that as well, because, he seems as if he has some great ideas round about that. So maybe we can pick that up at that point. Is anyone else who wants to come in on agenda item 9?
Thank you.
Sorry,
Thanks, Mary.
I was just going to follow on for what really Mary was saying, really about planning. We had our community council meeting last week, and a big focus of that was a new housing development for Allington, and apparently it's one of 2, but this one's now went to planning. The consultations for 2 weeks online, but no neighbours had been notified. They found out through a Daily Record article that it was shared online. So as a community council, we wrote and acknowledged that no letters had been sent out to the neighbours. So I appreciate that that's now going to be addressed, but it's only to a select few neighbours. So given the times where we can't have public consultations, should there not be a longer period of consultation and basically write to everybody who lives in that area to give them an opportunity? We've had a lot of feedback that people that are directly affected, that they look on to where the proposed planning is, aren't online. They're of an elderly nature, they've got no interest in going online, they don't have these accounts, so they feel that they're not going to have their voice. So it's just to highlight that in these times, just to look, can it be done through postal, given the nature?
I can certainly find out, Karen, and I can ask planning to confirm that. I know that the neighbour notifications, it's a distance from the development they go to, so sometimes people think they should be receiving notifications, but actually they're not required to. The planning department's a statutory function they carry out, so it's not just a council service. They're carrying out a statutory function. They'll follow whatever the guidelines are for consultation times, for notifications and everything else. But I can certainly look in to see if there's an offline method for people to respond to these, if they can write in or whatever in response to the letters they receive, and I can get back to you on that.
Very much appreciate it.
Can I ask about that housing development actually? Because I've been following it online as well, and I understood it to be the case that the pre-planning event, the outcome of that, well, what the feedback into the pre-planning event and the outcome of that event should be made available to the public, but I don't actually see that online. I haven't looked today. But the last I looked at, now maybe I'm just missing it, but I thought it would have been part and parcel of the actual planning application, because if you're asking people to make comment, they need to be able to make comment on something that's tangible, not just 61 houses,
Yeah, I agree. I haven't seen anything for the pre-planning.
No, so you haven't either, and it's your area, Karen.
Again, I need to defer to my planning colleagues. I'm quite happy to ask them that question and pick it up, but we need to take advice from colleagues, and that's not something we could answer just now.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks, Mary, and thanks, Ross, for the reply. I'm sure that you'll follow up with that with planning. Is there anyone who wants to say anything further on agenda item 9? No, fantastic. Stevie, and I've got Des. Stevie from Police Scotland, and I've also got Des as well. So Steve's been waiting patiently. So I'll go to Stevie first, and then maybe Des can come in afterwards. Thanks, Stevie.
Thanks very much, Chair. Firstly, I just want to introduce 2 new members of the team here. Sergeant Jim Mutter came into post about 2 weeks ago. He's got a good working knowledge of the area and the challenges, having worked here for a number of years previously, so he's a very welcomed addition to the team. Also, PC Colin McBride, he's recently joined the community policing team, taking the place of Neil Campbell, so he'll be working in shots with Kenny Samuel, and again, he's a welcomed addition to the team. I don't anticipate any other changes in the near future, which is good for me, and I'm certainly very lucky to have the dedicated officers I've got working with me at the moment. So it's just to give you a wee update in relation to those changes. First, I'm just going to mention quad bikes. We've continued to experience issues in relation to the antisocial and illegal use of quad and trail bikes, as I'm sure you're all aware of, and I'm acutely aware of the impact this has in the local community. The recent, well, I say good weather, we had a day or 2 of sunshine in the past few days, and already that's resulted in a spike in the number of incidents reported. And I'm well aware that the lighter nights coming in, that this is going to be a problem that's going to continue for us. Now, we take this very seriously. My officers continue to engage in days of action. This has happened in previous months, and it will happen in the coming months as well. In fact, Friday, Saturday coming, all my officers are going to be sort of teaming up to target the issue. Where appropriate, when the officers are doing that, they engage and educate, but they'll also utilise their powers and relevant legislation where it's appropriate to do so as well. We're also looking at ways to increase the number of officers we have who can deploy in the off-road bikes, which again, I know you're aware that we have that to utilise, so we're looking to sort of increase working of resilience around about that at the moment. In addition, I've attended and will continue to attend multi-agency meetings in an effort to work towards improving the problem for local residents. This is I've been updated by Ross, North Lanarkshire Council, that they're now in a position to install CCTV as well in the Hart Hill area as a result of the ongoing issues with the quad and trail bikes. I'm very thankful to North Lanarkshire Council for the work they're doing around this. This is in a kind of similar term to the off-road bikes. It's a good deterrent, but it's also proven in the past to assist us in our efforts to identify offenders. So again, very thankful for that. Hopefully that will be kind of implemented in the next 6 weeks or so. Just to finish up on trail bikes, always ask that if anybody's got any information in relation to who may be using quad or trail bikes in the local community, please let us know. You can do that by contacting myself or Sergeant Mutter by email, the local email inbox, or alternatively by contacting Crime Stoppers. And as always, you can remain anonymous when you do that, but it does help us build up a city intelligence picture of people who might be using quad bikes in the local areas. We'll move on briefly to speeding. Again, it's an area where we receive complaints in relation to speeding motorists. Again, my community officers are regularly undertaking static speed checks at locations identified by the local community, and where appropriate, we'll work closely with the Road Traffic Department as well, who assist us where they can. We've been working with traffic management in relation to speeding in Hartwood, and there's a review underway at various locations in Hartwood at the moment. I don't have timescales in terms of when that will be complete, but when I get the results of that, I'm happy to share it with you. And if there's anybody who's any particular interest in hearing the results of that, please get in touch with me. Again, we'll continue to engage in the static road checks on a regular basis throughout the coming months. And again, if anybody has any concerns about any particular location, please get in touch with me. I'll move on to antisocial behaviour briefly. Again, it's been mentioned a wee bit a couple of times in relation to city fires and shots, and Des has mentioned it there as well in the chat box. Scottish Fire and Rescue Service have made contact with in relation to fires in the shots and surrounding area, and I've actually got a meeting with them tomorrow to discuss the matter further. Predominantly, as we've mentioned, yourself, you mentioned it as well, Chair, it's in relation to sort of rubbish and wheelie bin fires. Now, the fire service have been supplying bin chains, which is absolutely fantastic. Totally agree with you there, and hopefully that's something we can discuss tomorrow as well. We'll continue to provide additional patrols at locations we identify an increase in antisocial behaviour. We've also got the ability to request the assistance of specialist resources, and we do that when it's appropriate and proportionate to do so. I was also recently asked to identify locations for which I have responsibility for street soccer, and the Fortisset Ward's location I've identified for that. So finally for me, in recent months, community officers along with our PSYV youth volunteers attended various locations in the Shorts area and delivered leaflets, and this was to provide advice on sort of personal safety, keeping your property secure, whether that be your shed, your car or your house. And I mention that because I always take the opportunity to kind of reinforce that message when I can. It's an important one to pass on, so please bear that in mind, everybody. That's it for me, Chair. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks for that, Stevie. I think you hit quite a lot of important points that certainly we get messages about, and sometimes we pass on to you as well, you know. And there was a fair few points about quad bikes, about antisocial behaviour with the bins, about speeding, and certainly these are things that come up all the time. So thanks for that report. Is there anyone who wanted to comment on Stevie's report or ask him any particular questions before I go on to Des from the fire service?
Can I ask, sorry, it's Karen, just about Hartwood Hospital? We know about, obviously, a land order was, well, it went to the Scottish Government because of the length of it. I understand it was refused. Just wondered if there's any more feedback or whether there's going to be a land order for the site, because with the lighter nights, we're starting to get a lot of traffic again, and it's getting that you can't walk around there without 20, 30 people inside the buildings banging, setting off bits, small fires and things like that. So just see if there's any feedback or update on that.
Thanks, Karen. No specific update. I'll speak to the landowners again and get that update for you, though, and I'll get back to you. Just to sort of mention in relation to the increase in footfall you mentioned there, I implemented a control strategy for Hartwood Hospital, which is a document we've kept and continue to manage, so that if this happens, if there is a sort of increased number of incidents reported, we can kind of step things up again. So I'll get my team to make contact with you, Cam, in relation to that, and just have a wee discussion around about that.
Fantastic, thank you.
I can maybe just add something in there as well, Karen. If you're talking about the stopping up order for the access to Hartwood Hospital, that went to the Scottish Government because they were looking for a permanent closure of the council rather than anything over, I think it's 4 or 5 days has to go. The stopping up order was rejected by the government because the reasons given were antisocial behaviour is not a legitimate reason to access grounds. Therefore, you can't use a stopping up order to prevent it under the Land Reform Act. So the council have been told that legally they cannot close off that access for antisocial behaviour reasons.
Okay, that's interesting. Thank you.
Thanks, Stevie. Thanks, Ross. Thanks for the question, Karen. Is there anyone else who wants to make a point or ask a question with Stevie?
Chair, there's Mark Hayes got his hand up.
Right, Mark, sorry.
Hi, sorry, just give me a wee minute to try and figure out how to put my hand up on this. It's really just to reiterate stuff that Steve was talking about the street soccer. So I'm the lead for North Lanarkshire within the health improvement around street soccer. And basically at the moment, the North Lanarkshire Leisure are looking at all the sites that have been put forward from ourselves and the other communities as well to hopefully get the recce's done. The unfortunate position we're in at the moment, until we go into stage 3 of lockdown, is the current guidelines, they won't be running it. However, that's subject to change. As we see from the update earlier today, there's slight differences in timelines. I'm hoping that we'll be able to get it out a lot sooner than maybe the summer, which is the way it's looking right now. But as soon as that sort of updates, I'll get it out to like Stephen and Des and the wider community as well, so that we can get that. But earlier today we had the LOIP meeting for Wishaw, and I was looking at potentially trying to see if we can maybe come up with, and this was just something straight out of the top of my head from this morning, that we could maybe look at another diversionary tactic around the same sort of idea of street soccer, but utilising something else. Potentially, we've got the pump track in Wishaw, the guys that run that have got bikes, BMXs and things like that. That's maybe more something that we could link in with those that are doing the things around the quad bikes. So, because for me, it's like looking at the things, the activities that they're embarking in. As quad bikes is just, are they doing it because they enjoy doing the quad bike stuff, and it's just that's a nuisance in the area that they're doing it? Can we redirect them into something else? I would hope to get into a sort of meeting with yourself, Stephen, to see if there's any evidence to kind of support that, to see if we can move something like that forward, and anyone else that would have any thoughts on that. On the wider health improvement stuff, we'll be working with Maureen on the LOIP and looking at where we can affect any developments and link in with anything that's already existing, and hopefully try and bring some more to the table around different programmes that should come up in the future. Hopefully there'll be a lot more movement forward with everything as things change over the coming months.
Thanks, Mark. That's really interesting. I'm quite sure that June and Craig would be interested in that type of thing, you know, when you're starting to talk about the bikes, and it might be well worth, you know, communicating between yourselves about that as well. I think that there could be opportunities there. So thanks very much for that. Anyone else want to come in right at the moment, or will we move on to Des, who's been waiting patiently? All right, we'll move to Des. Des.
Thank you, Chair. Just a few points to cover tonight rather than a report as such. I was pleased to participate in the LOIP subgroup, and as you mentioned earlier on, Councillor Quigley mentioned that there was some issues around wheelie bins and some deliberate fire raising around the Hurst Gardens, Dees Road, and straight away we were able to deploy a couple of resources up there and deal with that particular issue. Again, picking up with Mark's point there, we're more than happy and will participate in the street soccer, helping to identify any hotspots and be supportive of that. Another point that Stephen's raised, I seem to be picking up on everyone else's points tonight. The inspector raised that we've got a multi-agency task and finish group tomorrow, and that's around the whole of the Fortissa area. So rather than just focusing in on Shotts, Salisbury is another area of concern, where we've seen a real spike in deliberate fire setting and fire-related antisocial behaviour, particularly since April last year, so almost since COVID, since lockdown, and that probably breeds boredom. Boredom breeds antisocial behaviour and fire-related antisocial behaviour. So we're going to look at some of that tomorrow, in particular around grass, refuse and even vehicle fires within the area. So that's one of our big points for tomorrow, and I guess we'll have quite a lot will come from that. I shared some information today from the LOIP subgroup, and thanks to Maureen, I saw that that's been passed out to partners as well. If anyone else is wanting some more information on some of the initiatives that we're carrying out, please feel free to get in touch with myself or ask for that information to be shared. And that, Chair, is it from me. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Des. I appreciate that. I think that it's really important as we go forward. We're going to be rolling out, as a council, there's going to be rolling out the participatory budgeting projects, and it would be a shame if any of them were vandalised through fire or anything else. So I realise the importance of the multi-agency sort of meeting that you're having tomorrow. So I wish you every success with that. Is there anyone who wants to maybe question Des on anything or make a point around anything that Des has said? No. Okay. Thanks, Des. Thanks for that contribution. Thank you. If I can move on to agenda item 11, which is any other competent business. If anyone has anything maybe to raise at this point, then this would be great if you can do that.
Kenny?
Hi, John. Go ahead.
And just that you mentioned participatory budgeting, I think I would like the group to know the Scottish Government set up a group looking at participatory budgeting, and it's based in Edinburgh, and it's under the secretariat of a man called Michael Riley. So I've been in touch with Michael to find out the consensus of this group, and it's not very good, I can tell you. But anyway, it's just to let you know that's in the pipeline now nationally. There's a PB group looking at it. Okay.
Thanks, John. I appreciate that input. I know that you've been heavily involved with participatory budgeting going back quite a few years, so that's really good information.
People are still not talking to me yet because they reckon I'm responsible for taking all the money to Shotts. And if I'd have known about Turbothi, Mary, I'd have put a few bob aside for you. Okay, Ken.
I think everybody needs activists, John. We need activists, and that's what this is for.
John, I know you would have given me the full budget.
Really, I'd give you the moon.
Is there anyone else who wants to put
Chair Mark Costello, just
yes,
very briefly,
Mark,
just to pick up on John's point there about the PB and the national group that's ongoing, just to let you know, we're aware of that group, and myself and Ross Dunn and Leanne Pollock we've been part of that group, and we've fed into that, and we've given feedback to the proposals that are coming forward that have went from the Scottish Government and from COSLA as well. So, and that's something we are working on within the council, through looking at mainstreaming PB going forward, and we will be bringing further reports to the boards as time goes on over the next few months.
Can I just mention I objected to two of the participants were both from Moray, and I thought that was wrong. However, that's out my opinion.
Thanks for that, John. Is there anyone else who wants to come in at this point? No. Well, what maybe we can just do very quickly as we get to agenda item 12. Maybe Matt, if you can maybe enlighten us to the date of the next time and meeting for the community board, that would be fantastic.
We have
I've
Christine,
got that. Yeah, I've got that in front of me. Yeah, we're looking at the next meeting being on Monday, the 24th of May of 2021, and it'll be the same time, 6:30 to 8:30. What we're hoping to do is send out the meeting dates for the next 3 meetings so that people have got advance warning of them. So we'll get that circulated. But the first ones will be in May, next ones will be in August, and then that'll take us up to November. But I'll circulate those dates to the board members.
Thanks, Christine. That's fantastic. So we've come to the end of the meeting. Can I thank everyone for their contribution, and for being here as well. I think it's really, really important as we go forward. I think, North Lanarkshire Council, through the auspices of Shotts Community Board, are there to listen. I think it's a two-way conversation. I think it's really good. There was some fantastic points tonight, feedback. There may be offline meetings as well. So thank you for attending and making your views known. So thank you very much. So bye-bye and see you next
time.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.